You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
It's time to head south with the Fantha From Down Under. Here are your hosts, Adam O'Brien and Paul Naylor.
We celebrate 75 episodes as of today. This is a show that's been going on the Fantha Tracks radio network. That is Fantha Tracks, all your Star Wars news in a single file. And, of course, at fanthatracks.com. And a little fella by the name of Mark Newbold gave me a buzz a few years back. And you know what he said? He said, "Hey, mate, how would you like to come in and do a little bit of podcast, yeah?" And, of course, I said, yeah, because I was actually walking out of the podcast scene at the time. I had a show called Ozfans Radio. And Mark said, no, come and join us. We're going to be a worldwide network of people that love Star Wars of all kinds, and we're going to do news from each of the different parts of the globe. And, of course, Australia's a wacky place. We did, of course, the prequels out there. Well, some of them, the good ones. And, yes, even George likes Australia. George has been down here in Adelaide in a little food town mall enjoying a little beans and curd down there, of course. So you can see that Star Wars is a place that even brings the creator, the god of Star Wars down here. And, of course, Fantha From Down Under is just one of those shows that will give you all that sort of news and more. Now, coming to you live from Queenlands, Canteen, the Gold Coast of Australia, I am your host, Adam O'Brien. But we now have a bit of an upgrade here from episode number 75 on. We are going to have one of the greats, one of the Fantha Tracks team from the HQ over across the pond in the UK, somebody that you've already seen on this show, and we had many a fit of laughter on it, let me tell you. And that is, of course, the one, the only Paul Naylor. How are you?
What an introduction. Thank you very much, Adam. Yeah, it's great to be here, mate. Yeah, Star Wars. I mean, it's been such a huge part of both of our lives and will continue to be so. So, for those that do not know me, who might only listen to you because you're such a mullet man, is that I am the co-host of Start Your Engines, which looks at all the vehicles across the whole plethora of Star Wars films, TV shows, and even deep dives into rides. We looked recently at the vehicle for Star Tours. So so I do that with Mark Newbold. Your impression of him earlier was fantastic, by the way. He sounded just like that. I did say to you off air, I've got a nice surprise for you. I'm actually of Australian descent.
My God!
Yeah.
Here we go, folks. He's literally an Australian.
So my grandfather came to the UK from Australia when he was aged 11, which was a long time ago. He's not that keen on Australia as I am. So my connection to Australia, obviously, my grandfather came over to the UK when he was about age 11, and he previously worked, and I'm not exactly sure, I think it was somewhere near Queensland, but he grew up on a sheep farm. So as a young child, he used to help out sheep wrangling and all that sort of stuff. He was a man of great mystery. We don't even know exactly how old he was. He died before I was born, but I was talking to my mum the other day about recording this show. And she said, he was a lovely bloke, very placid, but if you wound him up, he got a temper. And the one thing that he did bring from Australia, even though I don't think he would have been doing it when he was 11, was he drank halves. He didn't drink pints, he drank halves. Because obviously over in Australia because of the heat, but he drank 20 halves a time, he was a big fan of the amber nectar. So I suppose technically speaking, we could rebrand as the Fanthas From Down Under, because
definitely.
I've got
Australian by blood. And I'll tell you what, if you're a sheep farmer, if you've seen episode 5, it becomes a new title. It becomes The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh dear.
That's it. You're definitely part of the stock out here in Australia, the stock farm.
Well, I'd love to find out exactly where he was from, and it'd be great to get an Australian passport. That'd be fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Get me off this rock.
Well, you'll actually see the sun down here.
Yeah, well, there is that. So I live on the outskirts of a very quite a rough city, I suppose, Stoke-on-Trent. I live on the outskirts of it. It's quite nice where I am. I worked in the newspaper industry for about 25 years, developed a number of skills editorially and production. Finished off there doing a lot of design work for magazines. There was a guy that I worked with that asked me if I was interested in doing any book design for him, so I did some of that. About 8.5 years ago, left the newspapers, took voluntary redundancy, set up my own business. Things were a bit slow to begin with, so I found myself having time to do some weird and wacky things. So the guy that had got me some cookery books to do also had like a traveling production side to his business as well. So I actually ended up as Jason Donovan's roadie for a short part of his tour back in 2018, I think it was. So I got all these touring bits and bobs that I was doing, and then books, and then business magazines, and I'm now working a lot with children's books and stuff like that. So it's been good. You know, it's a nice steady pace of life. It's not going to make me a millionaire, but it'll get me across the line because.
I always thought millionaires are miserable because they're always looking to save money, not spend it.
It's nice to live life on the edge, isn't it? When you're down to your last few dollars in your bank account, there's nothing more sort of invigorating than that, is there? Let's be honest. Yeah.
Hello, this is Mark Thompson. I narrate a bunch of the Star Wars audiobooks, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. Do or do not. There is no try.
So Star Wars-wise, I can trace... I mean, I'm 55 later this year, so I actually remember seeing Star Wars, the original, at the cinema, which was on general release in the UK, early 78. It had just been released in London in 77, at the end of 77. I actually remember queuing up to watch it more than watching the film. It was freezing cold. It was February. It was snow on the ground, and this flea pit of a cinema in a little town called Wellington. No, not that one. A little town called Wellington in Shropshire. And very rarely did it happen, but the queue snaked around the whole building. And I can remember snuggling into my mum's coat, freezing cold, and then watching Star Wars. I can remember more the feeling of coming away from the film thinking that was amazing rather than actually watching the film itself. But it's been with me since then. We're getting on for 50 years of Star Wars for me as well. And it's just something that I won't say it took over my life, but as a kid, that was all I was interested in. So when it came to birthdays and Christmas, it was dead easy for my folks because all they had to get me was Star Wars stuff. They didn't have to think, well, what's he going to want for Christmas? What's he going to want for his birthday? Oh, I don't know. But they were brilliant because they weren't really into it, but they managed to track down some really cool stuff. I remember the one Christmas I had the Imperial Troop Transporter, the grey one, which obviously wasn't in the films. Sand People, I think I was one of the first out of my groups of mates to have a Sand People. Like many people, I suppose, once I got to my mid-teenage years and I shifted away from Star Wars a bit and started a new hobby, which was chasing girls. And then Star Wars went on the back burner for a little while. I suppose my interest in Star Wars faded away around the time that Star Wars disappeared from view for many people, which was around 85, 86. And it disappeared for a good 5 years.
The dark times, man. I mean, It was very around. Like, I've got a similar experience. Like, that little bit, I'm probably about, 5 years younger than you. So I didn't see it in the cinemas. I saw it on TV. So I remember seeing it on a little box. I remember my mum saying, "Hey, William, there's a new movie coming out." And I said, "What's it called?" "Star Wars 2. I went, "Oh, okay." And so I went, "All right, this will be all right." And we saw The Empire Strikes Back. And I still to this day remember I was only, 3 or 4. I'm sitting in there with my little strap-on bloody jean things and going, this is going to be great. And this enormous fat lady in front of us was eating something that tastes like steak or whatever it was. And I said, "Mum, that stinks. It really does." And my mum was sick at the time. She had blocked nose. She goes, "I can't smell anything." But the lady in front of us, this giant lady, was taking up almost 2 seats. She lets one rip. Sitting next to her goes, "Hey, Mum, I think Yoda let one rip at the swamp."
There was bubbles. There were bubbles.
And the mum sort of looks back at us and she goes, "You sneaky little kid." The
worst of it was it smelled better than what she was eating.
We watched it at the Hoyts region in Brisbane City when we first moved there, and it was great. But it started also for our family that Mum goes, "Oh, these movies are too damn loud." and then we watched Dick Tracy and Back to the Future, all these ones later in successive years. Why are they so damn loud? Well, you can thank George for THX.
Yeah. Big thumbs up to George.
So it's great. I mean, obviously, we had the dark times, but in return, everything started to slow down a little bit, even out here in Australia. But the one thing that we did have, and I don't know if it happened in the UK or the US, we actually had another movie after Return of the Jedi go to the cinemas here in Australia. Caravan of Courage is what it was called out here. So we got to see my mate, the original mate, a mate that's, got that same hair as Mark and was a bit evil to his sister, eh? He was a bit like, what do you want these little furballs for?
he got that proper big brother sort of dynamic with his little sister, and he said, I don't want to do you. Have you met Eric?
I haven't met him in person, but we've been friends now for about a little over 7 years or something like that. And, when I was years ago I put out a couple of books under the name Alan R. Ryan. I was podcasting on that too. And we became mates. I had him on the show a few times on my previous podcast. And we just, as musicians, we really got to know each other quite well. So I'd send him guitar tracks and stuff like that. But he's very much somebody who's left, I guess, the acting business, gone out and really become an incredible musician. And his stuff's great. I actually really like his work. His work's really good. But also the fact that he's a fan like us and he loves chatting movies and stuff. And he's got a great show of his own too. He's
a real ambassador for Star Wars. I mean, I've met him a couple of times. I don't know whether he's actually ever sent you one, but there's a lovely little pin badge that I've got with the autograph for me on the card back. Some of these old actors that you meet, they want to talk about anything other than Star Wars, which I was warned about when I got to chat with Dave Prowse years ago. So just talk to him about Green Cross Code. Talk to him about how he got his MBE. Don't talk to him about Darth Vader. And it's true. You talk to him about anything else other than Star Wars. He was great.
Dave, what did you do on Superman? I trained Superman. Those original DAT tapes of A New Hope that went out with his name on it, like the audio in itself is gold. You don't even need to dub it.
Tear this ship apart and when you find new plans. the best of that. I mean, the documentary. One of the guys who put Star Wars together is talking about that bit where Darth Vader has the voice provided by Dave Prowse, and he goes, "What is this? Welsh? Is this Welsh?" He goes, "It doesn't sound anything like bloody Welsh." He's from like the West Country, isn't he? Classic stuff. They should have gone with that voice. It would have been hilarious.
Oh, it should have.
If they'd have kept it all the way through, though, in The Empire Strikes Back, the impact of that final, Luke, I am your father. Are you? Well, what's going on?
Hi, this is Andy Seacombe, otherwise known as a Watto, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
The Dark Horse comics, they were a lot darker as well in tone. But again, it was around the time where really I had come away from Star Wars for a bit, to the point where I'd sold a lot of my Star Wars toy collection to a cousin of mine for stupid prices. To this day, I still regret. Funnily enough, I bumped into the auntie at a funeral. I want to get my cardboard Death Star back.
I've got a lot of stuff that I know I lent to cousins and never got it back. And I've got a friend, Seamus. If you're out there listening to this, Seamus, you're still a bugger today. This time, I think it was my 21st birthday, or might be earlier than that. And he goes, "Yeah, mate, I'll drop that, mate." It'll give him Behind the Magic, that disc that had all the gold.
That was great, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's got, mate, I tell you what, if I still had, I mean, you couldn't play it on anything.
No. Many happy hours spent watching that. Yeah, it was great disc. Where are you with Star Wars these days, Adam?
So for me, Star Wars really ended on Revenge of the Sith. The sequels I was so excited about. To this day, The Force Awakens still I find is an enjoyable film. For me, the disconnection between the next two films, both films good in part and good for what they were. Like even Last Jedi is good as its own little film.
Yeah.
But story-wise, no.
Yeah, I mean, for me, very similar to you, I thought The Force Awakens was quite a solid film. Yes, it retread a lot of stuff from the past. My one issue with it, more than anything else, was the fact that all these years later, we've still got X-Wings and TIE Fighters. I would like to have seen something new to replace those. It just felt overly familiar. In terms of the actual story okay with it. I actually thought that Daisy Ridley did a good job in that film. She stood head and shoulders alongside Harrison Ford's performance, rather than sort of him overshadowing her. Then when you get to the next film, The Last Jedi, I mean, I am not a fan at all. Everybody who's watched or heard anything that I've broadcast on Fantha Tracks knows that. If it had been anything other than Star Wars, if it had been just a sci-fi, a fantasy film,
is it a clean and polished film? And but narratively, it is a mess, and it is not coherent with what's come before.
No.
And I'm not talking about Luke's journey, I'm not talking about the others. It's everything about pushing everything forward too far in the story.
Yeah.
It's the Snoke issue, really, for me. The whole idea of Snoke just being gutted straight away, it destroys the path of Ben Solo. Ben Solo should have toppled him, I actually think, at the start of the third film, which would bring him back. He needed to hit the darker place, or even maybe at the end of it, but the middle of the film, it made it very disjointed.
We'd got the situation where by the end of that film, we'd lost Han Solo in the previous film. We lose Luke Skywalker in this one. But in real life, the only member of the three main cast that we'd lost in real life was Carrie. So we ended up with an absolute storm of a situation for the third film as to, right, okay, Harrison Ford was the star of Force Awakens, Mark Hamill was the star of The Last Jedi, and Carrie was to be the star of the final film. It would have been so much easier if they'd have used that shot from The Last Jedi where Leia gets blown from the ship and sucked out into space. That should have been the end of Princess Leia. They should have just set it up that was Carrie's film rather than Mark's. And then we could have had something really good in the final film with Luke.
I hate what they did with that, with The Rise of Skywalker, using whether that was matched footage or whatever it was. And you can tell some of the dialogue does not work.
For me, you see some of the stuff that you get from deepfake now. There's been a number of versions of the Leia scene at the end of Rogue One that is far superior to the one that actually went out. And that, as nice as a nod as it was right at the end of Rogue One to see Leia, it just didn't look quite right. Tarkin worked to a certain extent, but not quite. But I think now they could go back to them, and I think they should go back to them purely from a legacy point of view.
Mando season 2, was it, at the end? They've actually gone back, and I think they hired the artist that did the deepfake.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. You said before about how like Star Wars really ended with Revenge of the Sith.
It did. Just told your story. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, obviously over the years there's been talk that George initially wanted it as a 9-film arc, and then there was even talk of it being a 12-film arc. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, come the end of Revenge of the Sith, he says, "No, that's it, no more."
Well, he said that, and you've got to remember too. But this was all talk as of, if I remember right, it's when he was getting the Lee Brackett Empire Strikes Back script done.
Yeah,
chosen one was actually going to be Leia, and Leia was going to face the Emperor. Yeah. In some ways, Rey's kind of that figure, and whether Leia was actually going to be the sister, really, or whether it was going to be somebody else.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
There's things in the new Star Wars stuff that I enjoy. I think Mandalorian, pretty solid as a first season, and a second season very woeful third season. Jack Black stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's been some interesting stuff. I mean, The Acolyte, I think I whizzed through that. I literally had it on fast forward. But I kind of park Star Wars that I knew and grew up with this new stuff as being completely separate. Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I think of like the first 6 as being like the golden era, and we were always going to have the prequels. Once George decided to number the films 4, 5, and 6, it made sense that you were going to get a 1, 2, and 3. So that was good. The newer stuff, I suppose, really, as a fan, we should be grateful that there's something out there, that we've got something. Part of me wants to like everything Star Wars. I would love the fact that any bit of content that came out, I would absolutely adore. But I suppose the older you get, the more you realise, well, do I have to like everything? As long as there's bits that I can sort of take from it and think, yeah, I love that bit. you come to a junction and you go, right, well, I'm not going to go down the animated route, but I'm going to carry on with the TV shows, the film stuff. But one of the biggest problems, and it's not only in Star Wars, it's in Marvel, it's in DC, it's in any of these big connected sagas. The biggest problem for me is canon. Once you start saying that everything's canon, once you make a misstep, you're stuck with it. So when I was a kid reading Spider-Man Weekly or Hulk or whatever else I was reading, I didn't worry about the fact that the Green Goblin might have been put in prison in one comic, and then 7 or 8 comics later he turns up again and it's back as fighting again. That never worried me. It was just about the action. In many ways, putting canon to one side and actually giving people what they want and what they need to see is more important. How many more times are we going to see the origins of Spider-Man, for crying out loud?
A friend of yours that, and friend of ours, I should say, a friend of Fantha, Paul Bateman. Things are only canon until they decide they want to put something else in there. I mean, the fact that the Marvel comics originally, when they came out in the 80s, that was canon, right?
Yeah.
And then Dark Horse comes along, takes over that, and of course it becomes not canon anymore. And so he's got a good point there. Point being that it's only as good as it's going to be for that period.
In the novels, Chewbacca is killed, and now you flip it, and Chewie survived, and he's lost his his 3 biggest allies. The reaction to losing Han just wasn't enough. Then he loses Luke, and then he loses Leia, and when he sat there with his head in his hands, sort of crying about Leia, and you think, well, yeah, I know you made a big connection to Leia and all that, but then it is just a mess. But still, never mind. Some people enjoy it. Yeah.
My other number one, because I put it in the same part, which is June.
Yeah.
June is just taken off. June is actually giving fandom what they asked for. Villeneuve is on another level. He's said his piece about Star Wars too. He said, Return of the Jedi is when everything fell apart for him. You had the great straight-ahead story of New Hope, and then you had this mystical and also a challenging story for your heroes in Empire Strikes Back. But after that, then it was cute, cuddly toys, which, of course, even Harrison's talked about. Goes, what's going on here?
I think Return of the Jedi, I put Empire and Star Wars on perhaps a level footing, and Return of the Jedi for me probably doesn't feature in my top 5 Star Wars films because it tried to wrap up too much. You kill off not only the bad guys that you expect are probably going to die, like Vader and the Emperor, but you effectively killed off Boba Fett. I know we've brought him back. It's all conveniently sort of, that's it, we're done. Even back in the day when I was 12, 13, when I saw Jedi, I remember coming away from it feeling kind of empty because I knew it was the end. Whereas if it had left things a little bit more open, if we'd have seen Boba Fett escape and go off into the distance or whatever, you thought, well, there's a possibility there, And this is why sometimes it's better to leave films and characters as they are, because we've now ended Luke, ended Han, ended Leia. When I go back now and watch A New Hope, as much as I can enjoy it, in the back of my mind, I've got that miserable, sad-looking Luke Skywalker that dies on a rock, and inexplicably, when he becomes a ghost, his hand goes with it.
Overdose, folks. I mean,
if you know the end of somebody's journey and then you try to watch the beginning of it, it's very difficult to watch it and enjoy it the same, knowing that they're gone, than if you think, I wonder what adventures are off on there. Picking up on the fact that you're such a Star Trek fan as well, how did you feel when the newer films came out? The ones
I actually quite like the first one. Was quite good. I mean,
I thought it was very good, the first one.
When they're putting through something like Banner, Eric Banner as a villain. Now he's the hard one for Aussies because he is a comedian out here. He's not an actor. He's even before Chopper. He had a bogan character. Now, for you folks out there that don't know what a bogan is, it's an Aussie that sounds, how are you? They wear flannels. They got the mullet. Fantastic characters. It did the one thing that they did well in all the Star Trek seasons of all the series, which is they have a good time travel story. Going back to the original one, The City on the Edge of Forever, and even Yesterday's Enterprise, that sort of stuff. There's all different types of time travel that's really well done. And the fact that they centered around Spock was interesting because to do that and then bring in Nimoy as kind of like go-to, he's kind of like the Kenobi.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, folks, because it's going to be controversial, Star Trek 2009 is a better film than The Force Awakens.
I would agree. I have not got a massive connection to Star Trek. It's not something that there's no way could I talk about it the way that you and Mark Newbold do. But I really did enjoy that first reboot of Star Trek. But the way that they did it was clever as well. Have it as an alternate timeline. It was really well done. I suppose my question really is, as much as you could accept those characters, so you've got these new actors playing the characters, would you feel comfortable accepting a new Han, Luke, and Leia?
Yes.
So would I. The only way that we're going to get back into that time of Star Wars is by recasting. Now, for me, I don't know have you seen Solo? The film?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah.
Which, look, as an actor, Einreich's great. But the fact that after seeing Anthony Gruber was down for it, but for some reason, Lord and Miller or whoever, they clearly had no idea what was going on. And it's a great film. I actually really enjoyed Solo as a movie.
Yeah.
But with Einreich, there's little hints of Han here and there. He doesn't quite have it down. In Gruber, it's literally a pastiche almost of Harrison Ford already.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's that classic clip where he's basically done a sizzle reel to try and audition for the role, hasn't he? And it is good. He's got the facial expressions and everything. But what I liked about Oldham was that he didn't try to mimic Harrison Ford. He put his own thing on it. I genuinely think Solo is up there as one of the best Star Wars films. I'd put that above Return of the Jedi.
Plus, get Woody Harrelson in Star Wars. Man.
Exactly, yeah.
My name is Kiriana Crader, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
We're going to head into some news now, and I want to get Paul's reaction to some of the stuff that's coming up, because, to be honest, some of this stuff's pretty fun that's coming out. So we've got new Lego Star Wars series called Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces, which is coming. And the big news is Mark Hamill is lending his voice to this. What do you think about Star Wars Lego games?
The ones that came out in the early thousands, they were great. My son Matthew was born 2003. So by the time we got to, I think there was the complete Star Wars Lego, which had got the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy all in one game. We played that to death. And that was his sort of entry point into Star Wars fandom, was the Star Wars Lego video games. And they were great fun. They got a fantastic sort of sense of humor to them. And they followed the narrative, but in a fun way. And you could complete the game one of two ways. I mean, you could rush through it without collecting certain things and building little mini ships and mini kits. Yeah, we either finished it properly or almost finished it properly. But yeah, I mean, I love those. What about yourself? Are you a big fan of those?
Oh, I love it. I played it on, was it the original Xbox, I think it was. That I had.
Yeah.
And I got the classic one and the prequel one. Separately.
We had about 3 different versions of the Star Wars Lego games. Yeah, we had the prequel one. Yeah, and they were slightly different as well. The stories and the actual game sections were slightly different depending on whether you had the complete saga or whether you had the prequels or the sequels. Well, not the sequels, not those now. The OG, the OT. But it was also very good on. I don't know whether you can download it now. I don't think you can, but there was a version that you could download on your phone that was really good, really playable. Yeah.
There's so many good things about the Lego series. The only thing I think that it was cheaper than the actual Lego itself. That's the one thing that got me, because whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or whatever it is, Lego ain't cheap. Ain't been cheap for years, folks.
No.
And even a little ship is about $100 for an Aussie family. That's a lot for a kid's toy, And I guess they're collectibles as well, so adults are buying them too. So for you folks out there, actually drop us a line here, wherever you're seeing this stream, and let us know what is the most expensive Lego set you've seen or bought or whatever it is. I'm guessing it would be that huge coffee table size bloody Millennium Falcon. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen it. There's been some leaked photos of the next Death Star that Lego are bringing out, which is going to potentially have a price point of basically $1,000, $999, right? USD. Okay. So Australian dollars, that's going to be what? 1,500, 1,600 Australian, yeah. And UK, you can guarantee, even though it should translate to less in pounds, it'll probably come out at £999 as well. The thing is with the larger sets, they are out of reach for a lot of people. But what people will do is they'll buy them as an investment. So they might buy 2. So they've got one that they build and one they put up in the loft. hoping that in sort of 10, 15 years' time, the kids that really wanted it now have got good jobs and can afford to buy it and maybe double their money. It always amazes me when I go to like different sort of Star Wars conventions and shows and collector events where there's still quite a number of Star Wars figures from back in the day on card backs, because nobody used to think about it back then. They didn't go, oh, I'll buy that because that'll be worth some money in some years to come. I mean, you can buy the Phantom Menace action figures that were £5 in Toys R Us back in 1999. You can buy those now for £5. Because people by then were thinking, oh, I'm going to buy a load of these and I'm going to sell them later on.
Or Mr. Keller, you can buy a Constable Zuvio for 30 cents.
Wow, yeah. But now that he's got them all, they're actually worth a lot of money.
Yes.
Have you been to the Zuvio? Have you done the virtual?
I have experienced it, and I'm under a NDA, as we all are, from Martin Keller.
NDA for Mark.
Yes. Yeah. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know, stay on target.
What do you like? With Star Wars Lego, I mean, you'll quite often see articles and things in shows whereby these huge sets that came out, maybe only came out once, they're now worth a fortune. But not only that, quite often the figures that are within those sets were only ever made once. And the figure themselves becomes worth an absolute fortune. It's crazy.
I mean, 100%. Or they change like the sculpt, like the Anakin.
Yeah. I mean, the Black Series for me, I mean, I started collecting that when it first came out. So was that about 2011, I think, 2012? Yeah. And I had quite a few, but it became impossible to keep up with the pace of it at the price point. But also once they started taking the windows away from the box so that you couldn't see what you got in there, I came away from it, and I've never rejoined it. So I get as much pleasure now out of selling my collection as I did from collecting it. So yeah.
It's also the old footage for things back in the day too, which I think is just as gold as the collecting.
Yeah.
Earlier there was an interview with Russell Crowe. And Crowe was talking about back in 1997 when they were actually trying to cast Phantom Menace. He got a call from some little boy who, hey, my name's George Lucas, and movie. And of course, here's and at this stage, I don't think they'd quite figured out whether Obi-Wan Kenobi was going to be young, or whether he was going to be old, or who Qui-Gon was going to be. And if you look at some of the actual storyboards, there is a bit of Russell Crowe in some of those faces. Yeah. So one begs to think, if Russell was in that movie, how much of the stuff he would have taken from George, you know, like direction-wise? Yeah, George, they ain't going to fly up.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I've done 3 episodes of Neighbours, and we would never have done it that way. How's that working out for you?
But yeah, like there's obviously lots and lots of great stuff when it comes in. But the Lego series, guys, I think it's a lot of fun because, again, it changes our perspective because, as George said, this is a franchise for 12-year-old boys. That's what he's always said. It's for young children. It's, to teach them morals, all that sort of stuff. He's a teacher at heart. Always, you see him in those lecture halls of, the Skywalker Ranch go, now, this is what the Force is about.
I think your George Lucas is definitely better than your Mark Newbold.
Well, that's all we have time for here tonight on the Fantha From Down Under. And we'll catch you next time. Same place, same channel, and of course, with more Star Wars news in a single file from FanthaTracks.com's Australian edition. That's right, we'll catch you next time. So, until then, may the Force be with you, and enjoy your Star Wars fandom. We'll see you next time.
Warning, no Tauntauns were harmed in the filming and recording of this podcast.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.